I don't want to cheat the game by saying I want to be the greatest ever. I want to be able to show it. Stephen Curry said that, and I'm saying this. Welcome to High and Low. Good day and good night. Welcome to the High and Low Basketball Podcast. This is episode number 100 and Tony. Woo! That's in Tony Parker. 9 is a number that was worn by the San Antonio legend, Tony Parker, from 2002 to 2019. 1/3 of the Spurs' big three. Or actually, would it be considered the big four with Popovich as a fourth? Yeah, I think so.
No, three.
All right. Okay. The man has spoken. Anyway, I don't know. I think my memory's grown more and more selective with age because I completely forgot that Tony Parker spent his final season in Charlotte. Totally forgot that. But anyway.
Don't forget, he sent some good text messages too.
Oh my God. I was trying to avoid that. I was trying to avoid that. I knew that. I don't want to talk about Brent Barry. I don't want to talk about none. Okay, you know what? Moving on. My name is Ike Amaechi, and today's starting lineup is Ugo and Sean Khan. Stephen Leslie is not here. He was fined by the league and the High and Low front office for his comments, and I believe he was asked to do some sensitivity training, to which he said,
that.
Around here, we live by the strict code governed by the high and low lives of the world, which means we talk about basketball, especially and specifically the NBA, and we talk about it at any time, anywhere, north, south, east, west, high, and low. This week on High and Low, we're answering your questions, but we're answering the questions connected to these here NBA Finals. So very Golden State Warriors and Boston Celtics centric. Stay tuned for all of that. Before we lock in, let's check in for episode number. Tony, like I said, Hugo's here. Sean is here. Hey, Hugo, do you watch the finals while watching other things? Or does each game get your absolute focus? I've been meaning to ask you that.
Yeah, no, each game has my focus. Now, admittedly, one of the games that Golden State lost, I was a little frustrated, so I went and watched Obi-Wan in between the game. So that was the only time.
You see, that's the thing. You were watching Obi-Wan, and Golden State went on a nice run. They took back the lead.
Yes,
they controlled the game. And
yes.
then you came back to watch the game, and then everything fell apart. Okay.
Yes. Well, to be honest, I was watching the Boston stream, like I said before, so it wasn't the Golden State stream. So it was not the same game.
Isn't that just a sign of the times, though? I mean, there's so many more options. There's so much more content now. Like I used to dial into every every Sunday for the double or triple header that was on. That would have all my attention every single Sunday or Saturday. And it's now I can barely get up for a finals game. It's crazy.
It's amazing.
Gosh.
Yeah. Finals game 7. I'll see if I can get into the third quarter.
Definitely second half. Second half, I'm dialed in, but before that, it's a wild card.
Do you still stretch before you go to sleep, Sean?
I mean, if I don't, my morning is rough.
All right. Well, Hugo, Sean, I appreciate your time this week. Thank you for joining me, listeners. High and Low Lives. Thank you for joining us for yet another installment of the High and Low program. Another week, another episode, more NBA, some more High and Low. This week in NBA history, Tony's teammate started it all. On June 25th, 1997, Tim Duncan of Wake Forest was drafted number 1 overall by the San Antonio Spurs. Prior to drafting Duncan, Spurs were a perennial playoff team led by David Robinson, the Admiral. Actually, they got as far as the Western Conference Finals in 1995 under then head coach Brian Hill. Remember that guy? The very next season would be a different story for David Robinson and the Spurs, as the Admiral would miss all but 6 games due to injuries. He missed the first 18 games due to a back injury, and then the Spurs went 3-15 in that span. Brian Hill was fired, replaced by the GM at the time, Greg Popovich. Dave Robinson would come back in December of 1996, play 6 games, and then break his foot, putting him out of the lineup for the rest of the season. San Antonio had no chance without their franchise player and finished the season with the 3rd worst record in the league, but they would land the number 1 pick and draft the guy who would eventually replace their injured star. I guess they saw the writing on the wall with David Robinson. I guess they saw that he was on the decline. The decision to draft Duncan would pay immediate dividends with a title 2 years later, a sign of things to come and a dynastic period for the franchise with the eventual addition of their other cornerstones, Manu Ginobili, and the namesake of this episode, Tony Parker. That's all we're going to say about Tony Parker. We won't go any further, okay? No talk of text messages, nothing. Unless you want to talk about his former... you know what? No, I'm going to end it right there. Anyway, that's a little something for the NBA history nerds. Things are certainly happening in the NBA today, so let's talk about it.
Let's talk about something important.
I have this mailbag sitting here. It's getting heavy, full of questions with some connection to the NBA Finals. So what better time to answer them than now? Let's jump right into it. I have a question from Aleem in Toronto, Ontario. This one's for you, Ugo.
Aleem, let's go.
See, Ugo's been spamming the chat with talk about Andrew Wiggins. He's got some family members that are really hype. They're big on Andrew Wiggins. So here's a question from Aleem. Do you think Andrew Wiggins' performance in the NBA Finals finally justifies his pre-NBA hype? It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll say emphatically no. Remember, he had that stupid nickname Maple Jordan and all that other nonsense. So he was supposed to be a guy that, was supposed to arguably dominate the league for years to come. And, he's never lived up to that mantle. Sure.
He's been the second best player on the Golden State Warriors.
Yes, at times. But
throughout these finals.
Yes, correct. But I mean, I'm really happy for his success. I think he's finally gotten out of that shadow of draft bust, hype bust, whatever you want to call it, right? And I think he's found a really good place in Golden State, where he just comes in and does his job. He doesn't necessarily have to be the number one option, the superstar, the person that has to carry a franchise. He can have a very important supporting role. And what I mean by supporting role means if you don't have Wiggins in the lineup, your team is severely hampered. He's your number one defender. Remember, Clay used to do that. Now it's Wiggs, right? When he's slashing to the basket, there's no one better on that team.
Are we calling him Wiggs now? Is that a thing?
You can call him Wiggs.
Let's go for it.
Let's call him Wiggs, right? But again, he's a really good third option, sometimes second option, sometimes first option, right? But his home is in that third slot and being a defensive stopper, right? He limited Luka. He's limited Tatum. He limited Ja. I mean, give him his kudos, but he hasn't matched that pre-NBA hype, and that's not fair to him.
But doesn't that make him a second? Doesn't that make him a good second option if he is that effective on the defensive end?
Yeah,
because we know what he can do on the offensive end.
Oh yeah, I know that. But again, that's why he's a sometimes second option, right?
What are you calling the guy sometimes?
I'm calling him sometimes.
You call him a third option.
He's a third. He's bona fide third. Oh, that's for sure. But yeah, depending on the lineup that you have out there, sometimes he's a second option, right? If Curry's on the court, Curry's getting all the attention. Wiggs is getting some pretty good one-on-one matchups and making the most of it, right? But if he's getting triple teamed, I mean, he's nowhere going to be anywhere near effective.
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think we need to remember that he was drafted by Minnesota.
Wrong.
So you mentioned that, he's in a good situation. Right?
Cleveland.
So he played for Minnesota for the first however many years of his career. He never played for Cleveland. Wouldn't have been any better if he played for Cleveland. But I think,
probably worse.
Yeah, probably worse. Yeah, combine that with the fact that obviously Minnesota coaching carousel, like bad leadership, bad team around him. Combine that with the fact that he actually has improved. Like his jumper has become a world-class jumper in the last 3 or 4 years.
I agree.
I think what we're seeing now is like the polished I don't want to say finished product, but the not raw Andrew Wiggins product. I think
He's matured.
He's matured and he's improved physically, mentally. He's a lot more engaged, especially in these finals. I think maybe he probably will still struggle with being engaged 48 minutes a game, every single game, 82 games a year. That's always going to be his thing. But in terms of skill level and intensity and defensive intensity, I think he's made huge strides. And I saw this first when he was representing Canada in Olympic qualifying. Like he was
a few years ago.
He was the star of that team, of an all NBA team, like not all NBA caliber, but all NBA players. And he was a go-to guy down the stretch of every game. And he was hitting those mid-range jumpers, those threes, and his jumper is nice right now. So I think if he continued to do that and play defense the way he's doing, I think he's a bona fide second option. I think he's a third option maybe on the best team in the league, but I think he's a second option on most of the teams.
On a playoff team.
I think he's a first option on, a bottom feeder team, maybe put some pieces around him and his level of improvement continues the way it is. That may be a mid-level team, but I think he's improved a lot in the last 3 or 4 years.
Let's jump to the next question, because this one is for Sean. This is from Bigums in Thousand Oaks. This season proved that Stephen Curry can lead a team to the NBA Finals or title without another superstar. Clay was less than 100% this year. Put that in parentheses. When can we give Curry his flowers and declare him to be one of the 10 greatest ever? Wow. Bigums, tell him how you really feel.
So I've been giving this a lot of thought recently, so I'm glad I was asked this question. And I feel like my top 10 lists always get kind of the most controversy / ridicule / discussion, but I mean, I think there are some people that agree with it. So you guys know I've always criticized Curry for not being able to do it on the defensive end or do the dirty work a la like a Marcus Smart or Kyle Lowry. But this finals run has, at least for me, solidified that he's so good offensively. He's like easily able to cancel out any of those weaknesses. I think I'm comfortable putting him in the top 10 of all time now.
Wow.
I'll tell you why. When I think of my all-time starting 5, plugging him in at point guard seems like a cheat code. Like, put anyone else in that position with like Jordan, Kareem, and whoever else you want to put in there. They're not really scoring. They're a pure distributor. Curry very possibly leads that team in scoring, and it's not only what he does at the 3-point line. He can score from anywhere. Like he's got a world-class layup package. His runners are deadly, and some of those runners he's hitting from 16 to 18 feet out. That's a lot further than your typical runner. So I think for me, he's definitely in my top 10. I think the next question is, if he's in my top 10, who's out? I think for me, Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Will Chamberlain. I say all of those guys are shoo-ins. Emphasis on Larry Bird. On my bubble, I got Hakeem, Duncan, Shaq, Kobe, Oscar Robertson. So with Steph, we have 6 guys, but only 3 spots remaining. So I'm slotting Steph in right after my top 7, so 8th overall. And I'm putting Shaq and Duncan at 9 and 10. So sorry, Hakeem, sorry, Oscar, and we all knew Kobe wasn't going to make my list anyway, so I'm not apologizing. I'll say one last thing about Steph. One of the knocks that guys like myself and Steven bring up are his finals performances. He's never won a finals MVP, as we all know. His stats and efficiency tend to dip slightly. I didn't look this up, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. But finally, he's clearly the best player on the court through the first 5 games at least, and he looks unstoppable and video gamey for significant minutes during this finals. He couldn't shoot in game 5. I think that was just one of those days. But I expect him to ball out in the last game or 2. Hopefully he goes 7. I feel like Boston deserves a chance to win it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Steph and company close it out tonight, which will actually be 4 nights ago if you're listening. But yeah, this is I have Steph 8th on my list currently.
Damn. 8. Wow. Okay. That deserves the explosion right there.
That's significant. It's just like for me to move someone out of my top 10 after I've been so adamant about my top 10 for the 2 years we've been doing this podcast. That's pretty significant.
That's why I'm reacting. Ugo, you're not saying anything. I'm like, this is huge.
I'm just listening. I mean, I have my own little twist on it, but I'm still surprised Kobe couldn't sniff a top 10, but Curry could sneak in there. But hey, you know what I mean? It's I get it.
Listen,
I get it.
I think there's a strong case for Steph over Kobe at this point.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If he gets another one after this, he's absolutely in the top 10, and there's like zero disputing that in any way, shape, or form.
Oh my goodness! I mean, we might be seeing him in the top 6, top 5.
Oh yeah. I think he's already earned that top 10. But I think that the one thing I see that knocks him, and I know we make jokes about glistening muscles and stuff like that. When you look at him, he just looks like a regular dude.
Nah, man, he's
you know what I mean?
He's bulging right now.
Well, yeah, he's been working out, but he's
pause.
Pause. Exactly.
He's bulging. Pause.
But he's not like this. Like, I mean, he has this aura about him, but he's not this physically larger than life character, right? Like a LeBron or a Magic or a Shaq or a Jordan or a Wilt. Like
anyone else in the top 12 or 13.
Exactly.
Pretty well much, right? So when you look at him, and I think those just physically how he's been able to dominate, but because he has those physical deficiencies against people who are bigger than him, you're like, oh well, if Jordan went against Curry, Jordan would dominate him because Jordan's so much bigger than him. So you can't put him on that list. You can't put him on the list because everybody else is bigger than him on that list, so to speak. But skill wise, I think he's done more than enough to already be on that list. More than enough, but people want more.
And just a reminder to listeners, if you want to leave a question for us, DM us on Instagram at Get High and Low, TikTok at More High and Low. You can leave a written question, or of course you can leave an audio message. So listen, we have more listener questions, so it's not quite time to drown this segment in a pool of sweat Ugo squeezed out of his boxers. Not yet. We'll be right back with More High and Low.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Boxers have been quite sweaty today.
This moment is brought to you by High and Low listeners. This week, we had listeners tell us where they rank Stephen Curry on their all-time list. We heard from a few of you. Bigham's in Thousand Oaks, California, has Curry at 7 on the list. Justin in Syracuse, New York, put Steph Curry at number 9, 9th greatest player of all time. Pasha in Huntington Beach, California. That sounds nice and warm. I'd love to be in Huntington Beach right now. Actually, it's warm here. What am I talking about? Anyway, Pasha has Stephen Curry at number 5, 5th greatest player of all time. 5, ahead of Larry Bird, by the way. Murray in Hershey, Pennsylvania, has Steph locked in at 7. Murray from Hershey. I like the way that sounds. Anyway, Aleem in Toronto, our boy Aleem, has Steph firmly perched on the number 10 spot. All right, I like it. Well, thank you all for sharing those opinions. I'm sure there aren't as many shocked reactions as there would have been a year ago. The question is, where do you put Steph if they do it again next year? Anyway, let us know where Steph Curry is on your list, on your all-time list. And you can let us know on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, anywhere you want. Anyway, thanks again. Now let's get back to the High and Low experience. Welcome back to High and Low. I'm Ike Amaechi, and I'm standing on this soapbox by myself. See, I've stepped away from the fray for a moment. Sorry, Ugo and Sean. Just for a moment. Just want to interrupt our mailbag segment because the Golden State Warriors are the NBA champions. So for the 4th time in 8 years, NBA champions. They beat the Boston Celtics in 6 games. And the great thing about doing this show is a commitment to our opinions. If we say it here, It's on record. It stands. And my Warriors in 6 call prior to game 1 of the series stands tall. But this isn't about me. This is about the Golden State Warriors and Stephen Curry, who was finally crowned NBA Finals MVP. Stephen. And hey, no disrespect intended towards my guy, Andre Iguodala, but Steph should have won that first Finals MVP in 2015. Just saying. Anyway, regardless, I think we all knew this was coming despite the weird narrative that popped up after that Game 5 win where people just started thinking that Andrew Wiggins was going to win the Finals MVP. Anyway, after Game 3, in which the Warriors went down 2-1, the championship pedigree took over. We all saw it. Boston's inexperience began to show itself, in the Dubs, well, they rattled off 3 straight wins. Incredible, because the Celtics had never lost more than 2 in a row all season. But the NBA Finals are a different tier of experience. It's a different beast. Steph Curry had his signature Game 4 where he scored 43 points and looked like one of the 3 best players we've seen in the last 30 years. As much of a gut punch that 43 piece was to Boston, the real kick to the nuts was in Game 5 when Steph looked a little flat, missing everything from 3, but Boston couldn't capitalize. The Warriors left the window open slightly, and the Celtics, well, they tried to climb through slowly, only to have the window shut down on their fingers. Painful. Even then, many seemed to think that Boston would bounce back in Game 6 and send the series back to San Francisco for Game 7, but Steph, Clay, and Draymond, they had other plans. And the Dubs, they weathered that early Boston run to start Game 6 in TD Garden and never really looked back. It was over. I mean, Steph was gesturing to his ring finger in the middle of the third quarter because he knew it was over. Anyway, if you're listening to the show all this time, it's safe to say that you watched that Game 6, you watched the series, you watched them win the title, you watched the celebrations, the reactions live or on Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram. King Curry, as I've been known to call him, carried his Warriors team unlike ever before. This was the least experienced, least talented of all the Warriors championship winning teams, but it was the hungriest. This win erased all doubt by naysayers. It put that Kevin Durant narrative to bed. For those who still needed convincing, it put Steph in the category of upper tier players, the guys who put the franchise on their back and climbed up that mountain to the very top. That's been an interesting development in the wake of this chip, the swiftness with which many analysts went on record to possibly, maybe, potentially consider, not declare, but consider Steph a top 10 player of all time. I mean, forget the tightrope walking. Even our very own Sean Khan, he kicked over the fence and picked a side. Pick a side. Anyway, Steph Curry is a top 10 player of all time. 4 titles, 2 MVPs, Finals MVP now. Numerous accolades, records. I mean, he's done it all. He's the most skilled player we've ever seen. It's not even close in that regard. The Warriors are one of the greatest dynasties of all time. I put them right there at third with Bill Russell's Celtics and Jordan's Bulls. See, next episode, we'll get into a proper conversation about the Warriors' legacy, Stephen Curry's legacy. For now, let's just watch Steph and his Warriors smell their flowers.
Sure smells good.
We'll be right back with a few more listener questions. This is High and Low.
All right, you guys, what's next?
And we are back. I'm Ike Amaechi, and I'm here with Ugo and Sean Khan. So we've been dipping into the mailbag, and so far we've had some great questions. Thank you to Bigums, and thank you to Aleem in Toronto. I got a next question from Brian in Cambridge, Massachusetts. This one's for you, Ugo. So, does Boston have the roster to return to the finals next season, or do they have to make another move in the offseason? What do you think?
Well, I would say the roster is shit, the coach is shit, everybody's shit up there. They ain't going to do shit.
Hey.
Okay, I got my hate out. Shout out to Mitch.
All right.
Woo. Well, okay, so Hortford is off the books next year, I believe. So
Who the hell is that?
that frees up a heck of a lot of money. I think you got some decisions with Marcus Smart and some other ones coming up. So, you know what? It's really hard to get to the finals again. And I don't know if with that roster, if they have enough to get back there again, right? I mean, they did beat Miami, and I assume Miami's going to make some changes over the summer. They did beat Milwaukee. I don't think they're going to make as many changes over there, but that's still a pretty damn good team, right?
And that was without Middleton.
Exactly. So I don't know. I mean, I would really have to see who's out there. Who do you get, right? I mean, Robert Williams is great, but he's severely limited in his abilities. He's a great rim protector. Yeah, they still got him, but I mean, he's got a great rim protection. Yeah, you know what?
That's if he makes it through the finals. I mean,
there you go. Yeah,
playing on one leg, and they still got him. They still
injury.
trucking him out there.
I'd love to say that they're one move, but I would have to see what that move is. I don't know who you bring to that roster. You know, maybe Ayton. I don't know. I don't know who you bring to that roster that makes you say, "Ooh, dang, yeah, they're definitely going back to at least the Eastern Conference Finals and competing again." I don't see it.
I think it's just a testament to the fact that they have a solid team.
Yeah, no, it's a great team. Yeah, but I mean, maybe Horford comes back for less money, but again, he's how old now? You know what I mean? Like
36.
Can he keep doing it? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's just a matter of time before he walks off that cliff. You know, like,
yeah.
But he's been great. Like his intangibles have been off the charts this playoffs. In the last, regular season too, I guess. But yeah, he sort of is the X factor if he's there and he's producing like he is this year. I also think, and we talked about this, I think a couple of weeks ago, there's so much depth in the East, and all the teams are sort of like very similar in terms of like where they rank in the NBA. So the East playoffs they're so grueling. I mean, Miami, we saw what happened, and I'm repeating myself, but we saw what happened to Miami the year after they went to the bubble. They lost and got swept, I think, in the first round. I think Boston's fate might be kind of similar to that next year. I think maybe they're a little bit younger and more capable of having some more stamina. I think Miami's a lot of an older team. But I think they're going to struggle to get to the finals next year.
Yeah, sorry, let me just correct one thing. Horford's deal expires next year. So
who the hell is that?
Maybe they open it up early this year and they talk to him, but Marcus Smart and all the other guys are there for at least another 2 to 3 years. So maybe you consider...
What's his name?
Marcus Smart.
No, the other guy.
What?
Horford?
Al Horford? Horford. Sorry, no T. My bad. No T. Sorry, Al.
Al Horford is an accountant in Wisconsin.
Shout out, Al. Yeah, maybe you consider running it back, but I don't know if you run it back with the same team if you get the same results. So
the Ayton point was kind of interesting because if Horford's gone, then there is like that power forward center flex position available. But then what do you do with your other guys like Robert Williams and
Robert Williams is a far better defender than Ayton. So
offensive rebounder, everything. Yeah,
absolutely, and he's cheaper.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next question. Thank you very much, Brian in Cambridge, Massachusetts. You sound like a Boston fan. Mm-hmm.
Okay, next, what's his name? With his back to me.
This next question is from Deshaun. That's Deshaun, not Duchesne, but Deshaun in Vancouver, BC. I think the last time Deshaun wrote into us or sent a question, and I think Ugo, I think you were thinking about Duchesne from Top Boy.
Probably.
Yeah. Deshaun in Vancouver, BC has a question for us, and this one is for Sean. If you were the Lakers of Los Angeles, in parentheses, he has shout out to Ike. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, my boy. Would you sign Jaylen Brown in 2024 or wait for Tatum in 2025? You can't have both. Woof, we were just talking about it.
Yeah. Well, Deshaun, Deshane, Horford, it's all the same thing. But yeah, like both guys have been brilliant and bad in these finals. But the answer is Tatum, though, and I'm not going to say it's not close, but it's a no-brainer. Jaylen Brown is benefiting greatly from playing with Jason Tatum. Tatum is a guy that you build around. Brown is a solid build around piece. If Jaylen Brown is your best player, you're probably not going to be very good. But as a second scorer, I don't think there's anyone better in the NBA. His ball handling makes me cringe at times. Like, I'm watching this guy play, and he's just like dribbling off people's legs and tumbling over for no reason, losing his balance. I don't get it. But Jason Tatum's decision making kind of makes me cringe too. But let's not forget, like, Tatum was first team All NBA. Brown wasn't even named. Let's also not forget that Jason Tatum is still only 24 years of age. He was born 2 years after Jaylen Brown. So if you're still on the fence about this, or you're leaning towards Brown, just keep watching for the next 5 years, maybe even 10 years. I think the accomplishments and accolades will tell the story.
Yes. Well said.
All right, you guys, what's next?
So I have one more question. This one is from Marissa J. And she is in Gary, Indiana. And I'll throw this out to both of you. What East and West teams pose the biggest threats to Boston and Golden State next season?
That's not friend to the podcast, Marissa, is it?
No.
Okay.
No. Gary, Indiana? No. Okay.
She's not there.
So who are the biggest threats? Toronto in the East.
Oh, God.
I wish I could say that. That's tough.
Face.
Yeah, I feel like in the West, like, no one, like Memphis maybe.
I don't know, man. Remember, there's a guy named Kawhi who's coming back.
I don't trust his health anymore. If he was playing for Toronto, he'd be healthy as an ox. But he's not. He made that bad decision and left us. So.
Wow.
Bad karma to Kawhi, never going to be healthy again.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody in the West. Like I said, like, Golden State had the easiest. Like, they played Dallas in the conference final. Are you kidding me? Like, Dallas had no business being in that conference final. And they won in 5, right?
Have a better. Yeah, they won in 5. Yeah.
So I don't think there's anyone in the West. I mean, maybe a healthy Nuggets team, but I mean, I don't like MPJ. I know he's your boy, but like, I think he's just broken. In the East, it's Milwaukee. Let's be honest here. I think Milwaukee and Giannis is the best player in the world, and they built enough around him that they're going to compete again next year. They might even win it next year.
That's a declaration. Wow. All right. You go.
So let's start with the West. Golden State started to build up a little bit of a rivalry with the Memphis Grizzlies. So I'll give them a little bit of an asterisk. I think the Phoenix Suns are still pretty good, even though they did get somewhat disappointed and exposed in the playoffs. I still think they're pretty darn good.
Isn't Chris Paul done?
No, he's not done. He's still there. He's good.
And what if they lose Aiden? Is that going to make a difference?
Well, listen, okay, let's put an asterisk on that team. If the whole team comes back, yes, okay. Man, you're trying to conflate my questions and answers and stuff, man. And you know what? I'm going to say Denver's an X factor, right? Only because Jokic was so good, but he just literally had nobody around him. So if you got Jamal Murray coming back and some iteration of Michael Porter Jr. that is somewhat serviceable, I think that will make it very, very interesting.
That's a big
if.
East.
Big if. Yeah, it's an if.
It is a big if. I'll say it's a big if. Right.
There's asterisks all over the place there, right? Everybody else, I'm not worried about.
You got stars everywhere, man. It's like a night sky.
Do like last week, the shimmering stars thing. But then in the East, I mean, I'm going to still stick with Miami and Milwaukee. I still don't see Philadelphia getting their act together. I think Bulls were a pretty good one-trick pony, and that's about it. I'm not seeing.
You see Miami next year?
I see Miami next year, 100%. 100%.
Okay.
Book it.
I don't know. I don't know, man. It just sounds like Kyle Lowry might be on his way out.
He is washed.
And he's washed.
He's washed more than anyone's ever been washed.
Tyler Hero. I don't know what is happening with Tyler Hero, but he just sounds like a trade piece at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tyler's making his play, right? And
Duncan Robinson.
Miami wants.
What is he? Sorry.
Well, listen. Miami,
his value just he completely cratered.
Yeah.
He cratered.
Yeah. The thing with Miami, I will give them credit for is they're doing the right things. All they want is bona fide two-way players and good two-way players, right? Hero and Duncan.
Those are one-way players, man.
Exactly. Right? And Hero's great when he's getting buckets, right? Because that plus minus starts to look really good on the plus side, right? But if he ain't getting buckets, he's getting minuses. So I think Miami will figure that out in the offseason. That's not a difficult problem for them to fix.
Well, Tyler Hero had one of the strangest injuries that I've ever seen in a playoff. He had to sit out due to fear. So I don't know. I don't know how you fix that.
Yes.
But good luck to Pat Riley in finding a new home for Tyler Hero. I don't know what Miami looks like next year. So that's why I don't know. That's why I asked that question.
But
we'll see.
if anyone is capable of finding diamonds in the rough and figuring it out, it is the Miami Heat. Like they made Gabe Vincent a thing. He's probably their starting point guard next year.
It's true.
So and they're constantly. We just talked about Hero and Duncan Robinson, like finding these guys that are capable of contributing to winning teams. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Marissa J. in Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana is low key one of the most dangerous places in the United States. Just going to say that.
Stay safe, Marissa.
Hey, stay safe. And Deshaun in Vancouver, BC, thank you very much for your question. Brian in Cambridge, Massachusetts, thank you for your questions. You sound like a Boston Celtics fan. We'll just move on from that.
Why the fuck I can't shoot 3-point shots?
But hey, this brings us to the end of yet another episode of the High and Low Basketball Podcast. So thank you, Ugo. Thank you, Sean. If you haven't done so, subscribe to High and Low anywhere you find podcasts. Go to the High and Low YouTube channel for bonus content. Click on that bell and subscribe. We're on Instagram at Get High and Low. We're on Twitter and TikTok at More High and Low. So where can listeners find you, Sean?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at Sean_controversy and on Twitter at controversy.
Okay. Sean did not bring the controversy. Actually, I think some people might find Steph over Kobe controversial, but I think that's a small percentage of people these days, so smaller. Hugo, where can they find you?
Nope, can't find me. Still got games to watch.
Still
got games to watch. I'll probably come out of hiding for the draft so I can see who. Okay, is the guy's name Chet or Chet? I don't know what his name is.
This guy. Chet. It's Chet.
Chet? Okay.
Again, something I gotta go and
okay. Make sure you mark that. So you can't find me until at least after the finals, maybe after the draft. Because sure as heck I'm not watching Summer League. So enjoy those summers, boys. Drink your drinks and smoke your cigarros or whatever else you care to enjoy.
Hey, guess what? Chet Holmgren, he played high school basketball with Jalen Suggs in Minnesota. He played on the same team, in fact. And Chet Holmgren is projected to go to Orlando and play with, again, Jalen Suggs. We'll see where things go.
That's a lot of intrigue for a lot of nothing.
See, you need to just calm down and watch some Chet Holmgren highlights.
Yeah.
Because guess where Chet Holmgren went to? He played college ball in Gonzaga. Guess who went to Gonzaga?
Jalen Suggs.
Jalen Suggs.
Yeah. And what's the greatest product out of that school? John Stockton. That's it.
That's incorrect.
What?
That's incorrect.
What school does Stockton go to?
He did go to Gonzaga. Listen, Adam Morrison fan. All right.
You might as well have said
me
Chet
there.
Holmgren because that might be the next Adam Morrison.
Okay, you got me on that one. Yes. With the dirty mustache, you got me there.
With the dirty mustache, man.
You got
He looks
me
like
there.
a 1970s porn star. Prawn star. Okay. Anyway, once again, music is by Live with the Enjoy Music Group. That's the music you're listening to right now. You can find Live on Twitter and on Instagram at LYVE. And music is also by Sonny Rockwell of The Goodness. You can't find that guy anywhere. Believe me, I tried. Sound design is by Vonn+Abrahamm. This is a Vonn+Abrahamm podcast, just in case you didn't know. So on behalf of Sean Khan and Ugo, I'm Ike Amaechi. Thank you for listening to High and Low. We'll see you next week.
Black coaches matter.
Done.